Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome to Show Me Mysteries. We appreciate you tuning in to share some time with us this evening. And if you're watching this on the replay, we appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to check out what we're talking about. My name is Marcia, and in the co host seat, as always, Michelle.
Hello. Hello.
Tonight, we're going to take you on a trip through a handful of the many UFO sightings that have taken place across the great state of Missouri.
Of what? Of where?
Missouri.
Where are we
I
at? Show
almost,
me state.
yeah, the Show Me State. You betcha. If you have any friends or family, coworkers that you think might be interested in what we're talking about this evening, please share us out. It is greatly appreciated. For those of you who have been hanging out with us for a while, you'll notice that we do have a new name for our live streams. I will give you all the scoop on that a little bit later on and tell you why we decided to change the name and how all that came to be. I want to say thank you to the military, as we always do, and to our men and women in blue. Without you, we would not be here today doing what we're doing. And I know our military is currently under attack all over the world. Just know that we are praying for you, for your families. We know the sacrifice you're making for us. And from the bottom of our hearts to you, we truly appreciate your sacrifice.
Absolutely.
There is no recent news, is there, Michelle, in our schedule? I don't think so. We haven't hunted since November, I
Correct.
think. We've been
Correct.
taking a break like we always do in the wintertime. Just been planning for the upcoming 2024 season, which we've got a pretty full schedule, and I'm excited about it because Michelle, I don't think there's one place that we're going that we've ever been to before, is there?
I don't think so. There was one. Yes, Pittsburgh.
Oh, South Pittsburgh Hospital. Yeah, we were there in 2016, but it's under new ownership.
Yep.
And maybe this time we will get to investigate the entire hospital instead of just half of it.
Correct.
And maybe we won't have to wire the front door shut.
Maybe that would be a bonus.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Hello, Dawn. Thanks for hanging with us this evening. We're going to be talking about UFOs in Missouri, specifically in Missouri. Because, we got a ton of them, ton of sightings.
We do. It's very interesting.
Yes. Hey, Sheila, glad you could join us. We're going to be telling you all about UFOs in the state of Missouri. Again, that's our topic. If you're just joining us, UFOs in Missouri. As you join us, if you will, just say hello in the chat so that we know that you're here with us. And if you have any questions or thoughts, or if you have a story about a UFO, let us know that. We would love to hear it because I've seen UFOs. I have not seen any in Missouri, I will say.
I have, and my family does make the jokes, but I know what I saw, and it's been about 25 years.
Well, didn't you also sent me a picture one day when you were driving home from Jeff City? Remember, you caught whatever that was in that.
Oh yeah, I remember. I forgot about that.
Yes, yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Yes. I was not using my phone while driving. Let me just put that caveat out there.
No, she pulled over because she's like, "What in the world is this?" Because it was on C Road. I mean, it was a clear, sunny day, and it's like. Yeah. So she sent me this picture. I'm like, I don't have any idea what that is. I don't know. Hey, Kathy, glad you could join us this evening for a little UFO or ufology. Is that what it's called? Ufology.
So I think you're making words up.
No, that's true. That's a word. Google it.
Okay.
Before we get started, though, on Missouri specific, I did want to go through a little bit of history of UFOs because, there's been documentation on UFOs for Millennial.
Hmm.
Millennial.
Well, and depending on what you read and what you believe and everything, but it dates back to biblical times.
Would you want to enlighten us?
I will. So I
Just
did pull
enlighten
this
us.
off, enlighten you. So in some of the research that I did, and it's fairly current, 21, which we know so much more has come out since then. But in the Bible's book of Ezekiel, um, let's see, how did they put it? Because I don't want to get this wrong. They say a mysterious ship is described as appearing in the sky in what's now known as Kuwait. And those and strange sightings have been recorded in Rome as of 218 BC. There were mysterious, they called them apparitions, but they just didn't know what they were. They called them moonboats in China during the 4th century. And they were actually able to document those, like coming and showing up once every 12 years. So they actually identified a cycle that was happening and coming out.
That's
Um,
that's interesting. I wonder how long that 12-year cycle went on.
Now I don't have that information. That wasn't part of this particular article, and I couldn't find any. How many? Was it 24 years? Did they see it twice? I don't know. I don't have that, but they were just enough that they could tell it was every 12 years.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
And I think we were talking offline, talking about in 1561, and it's now known as Germany, but at the time it was
It was Bavaria. It was in Nuremberg.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And
and
that's actually a written record. And numerous residents saw what they called it an aerial battle. I don't know what that means, but they called it an aerial battle in the sky, and they said that was followed by what they described as a large black triangle or triangular object, and that it actually crashed outside the city.
oh wow,
Yeah, and there were hundreds of witnesses that observed what they called spheres, cylinders, and other odd-shaped objects that moved overhead in the sky. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
no kidding, to have that much detail for that far back.
Yes, yes, and so many people, so many
Yeah.
people.
And was it? So you said it was documented on paper, or was it just word of mouth?
No, it's documented. One of the historians took note, and I did not write that down who that was, but he interviewed a lot of he didn't call them residents, but that's what we call them today. I forget the term he used, but the people that lived there that saw it.
Okay.
What wasn't included in his writing, though, was whether or not the crash was investigated. I mean, did anybody go out
Oh,
and check that out? Of course, transportation would probably have been an issue.
just a little bit, yeah.
It probably
Takes
would
a
have been
little
an issue.
time.
Yeah. So, but I did not hear anything or see anything in his writings about the crash, other than it crashed outside the city, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, all right. Moving up the timeline, Hull, England also reported seeing a lot of what they called unfamiliar objects in the air in 1801. And so,
Well, a crazy thing happened in 1803 in Japan, the Hitachi province of Japan. And these local fishermen, and this is a crazy story. You talk about crazy stories. But again, this is written, it's not oral history, but local fishermen came across what they called a closed vessel that had small windows in it, and it was adrift in the ocean. Is that right? Yes, because I'm trying to get my geography right. It was adrift in the ocean, and when they investigated it, they went out to check it out, which, quite frankly, in 1803 is more than I would have done. But they found what they described as a beautiful young woman that had red and white hair, and she was dressed in really strange clothing that they were not accustomed to.
Okay.
And she emerged out of this vessel carrying a square box, or what they described as a square box, that some of the fishermen tried to touch or tried to investigate it, but she wouldn't let them. And she spoke to them in a language they had never heard before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then she just disappeared back into this vessel, disappeared into the ocean.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That is wild.
That's probably one of the craziest, oldest stories I've heard. And then then we get to like the United States, right? And the earliest documented UFOs I could find here in the United States was in late 1896 and early 1897. It started in California, which should surprise no one, but it came across the Midwest, and folks were reporting what they called strange airships and strange lights. And they described these airships as having flapping wings, cigar-shaped bodies, and a metal hull. And there were numerous newspaper reports that had that same description in that same time frame. It was from like November through April, I think. But there were numerous reports from California and then all across the Midwest.
Interesting. Well, I wonder if they had any of those, if they had photographs of any of those, because the first documented image of a UFO was actually earlier than that time frame. Do you have any idea when that might have been? Anybody out there? Take a guess.
Oh. Earlier than 1896?
Yes. 1870.
Ooh, I'd love to see that if it still existed.
And it was captured on the summit of Mount Washington in New Hampshire. So the other coast.
That's interesting.
Yep.
That's interesting. I wonder if that photograph exists.
I don't know. I should have gone further and looked a little bit. I apologize.
That's all right. And then, of course, during World War II, we all know about the Foo Fighters. That's very well documented, where our Allied fighter pilots ran into these, whatever it was, colorful balls of light that kind of like followed them around. Those were never identified. But I mean, it's just like common knowledge. The Foo Fighters are like, everybody knows about them.
Well, and it's kind of interesting that, it was the United States Foo Fighters who had, that information, but it was also the U.S. Air Force that coined the term UFO, unidentified flying objects.
I did not know that.
Yep.
I did not know that.
Look at us go.
We're learning stuff every day. All right. Hey, Linda. Glad to see you here. All right. Dawn, what are you saying to me? Native Americans had hieroglyphics. Aren't those writings? Or am I thinking about something?
They told their stories in hieroglyphics and pictures and
yeah. Which that's documented as well.
Yep.
All these crazy things. Yeah.
Yep.
So, all right. So we just wanted to give you a little history of UFO sightings in general, when we started seeing them, because, really in the United States anyway, we talked about UFOs just like we talk about, pulling in the crops up until about 46, 47, whenever War of the Worlds came out. Remember that? And everybody panicked.
Yes.
Well, I know you.
I know what you mean.
I know you don't remember it, but when War of the Worlds came out,
Because that was the radio show.
That was Orson Welles' radio
Yes.
show. And he had a Martian attack come
Yep.
down in, I think, New York City or a big city. And it was just a radio show. It was just a show. And the American public just panicked. They literally panicked.
Yep.
And there was chaos in the streets and all of that kind of stuff. And it was at that point that UFO sightings and things of that nature started to not be talked about anymore. I mean, you can definitely see when you're researching it that in like all the old newspapers, there's tons of reports of old farmers finding silver disc-shaped objects in their field, and they report it to the local sheriff, and they go on about their business, and they plant their field, and life is good.
Yeah.
Until that point, and then all references stop until more recently, when people were ridiculed for talking about it, until just very recently. So.
And the interesting thing is during that time frame where it was kind of, okay, Americans can't handle this, but yet the National UFO Reporting Center was established and founded in 1974. And they have documented, as of 2021, around 90,000 UFO sightings. And of those 90,000, about 95% has been explained away by military tests, weather balloons, things of that nature. But their data set that they have and all the research and everything that they've been doing actually dates back to 1400.
That's just crazy to me. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So let's get to some Missouri specific.
Okay. Quick question. How many UFO sightings do you think there have been in Missouri?
In Missouri? Ever?
Yeah. Yes.
So, or since they've been tracking?
Since 74. Since they've been tracking since 74. It's in their data set and everything. Throw some guesses out there.
I'm going to say, you guys in the chat, throw some guesses out there. I'm going to say in Missouri since the 70s. I want to say, I'm probably way off, but I want to say like 5,000.
That's way off.
Okay.
In Missouri, they have identified 1,870 sightings.
1,800?
Yeah. Almost 1,900. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
12. No, that we've probably had 12 probably in the last few months.
Let me try to, because technology is not my thing, folks. But I do want to show you, I got a couple of pictures. One shows all of the UFO sightings that have been reported in the United States. I think that's my first picture. Let's see if it'll work.
Maybe.
Come on. There it goes.
Just a little bit, Sheila. It's all good.
There it is.
All right.
Sheila, I was way off too. Okay, so this is in the United States. Now, it looks like it might be red and yellow, but it's really red and green. The green are more recent sightings. These are all 2023 and 2024 sightings.
Wow.
Yeah, but you can see how many have been reported in the United States. Now, what I want to show you here, I think the next one is just Missouri. So if you see the little outline of Missouri, we come down this way through St. Louis. Here's our Boot Hill, Kansas City. So I guess I probably could have counted the dots and got that right.
I'd like to see you get to about 500 and go, I lost count.
At least I would know it wouldn't be 5,000. So, hey, Beth, glad you could join us this evening. We're talking about UFOs in Missouri. Okay.
Okay, so anyway, when was the first documented in Missouri that you found?
Oh, I did not look that up.
Oh, when's the first one that you have?
The first, well, the one that I want to talk about is the one that got Piedmont, Missouri designated as the UFO capital of the state.
And if you asked probably half the people in Missouri, they have no idea where Piedmont, Missouri is.
So I want to ask the folks in the chat, did you know? Of course, you don't know where Piedmont, Missouri is because I barely know where Piedmont, Missouri is. But it's a little bitty small town. But I think got a picture of that too. I should have left this up there. Holy moly. But anyway, we actually, our governor, bless his heart, we love our gov. He all right, why is this not showing?
We're multitasking. Hold, please.
Yes. Because you know I can't do two things at one time.
Oh, wow. That is
well,
not what you wanted to show.
That's not going to work, my friends. But our governor,
oh gosh,
actually, well, our legislature actually had a resolution or whatever they call those things for Piedmont, Missouri to become known as the Missouri capital, right, for UFOs. All right, I'm going to try this one more time. Are you ready? Hard telling what's going to pop up, folks. Oh, there it is. Okay.
There's Missouri.
There's Missouri. Yeah. There's our little guy.
How nice of him to allow them to take his picture.
There's our little
with a beard
logo for Piedmont, Missouri with the brewski.
Oh my word. That is hysterical.
Isn't it? Isn't it? So, but anyway, what I wanted to talk to you all about was the incident that got this started, right? I shouldn't stop sharing. I should just keep it up there. But you know, I'm going to flip back and forth because what else have I got to do today? So the incident that started this whole thing of, you know, Piedmont being the UFO capital of Missouri happened on February 21st. It started, I should say, on February 21st, 1973. And it was, and Michelle, I think you're familiar with this too. So if I miss something, just jump in. A basketball coach, his team managers, two of his team managers and three of his basketball players were on their way home from a basketball game. And they were coming along US Highway 60 near Elsinore, Missouri. Now, this is down south, right down towards what we call the Boot Hill. And they were about 20 miles south of Piedmont. Now, I don't know what it was like in 1973, but now US Highway 60 is a pretty decent road, although sometimes it's like a two-laner, but it's a nice road. Anyway, they're driving along Highway 60 near Elsinore, and all of a sudden, this coach, his name is Reggie Bone, he saw what he described as a bright shaft of light beaming down out of the sky. So they continued on, and a few miles later, one of the basketball players, one of the teenagers, his name was Randall Holmes, he noticed it. So they stopped. Bone pulled over to the side of the road. They stopped. They got out of the car, and they were watching this thing. And the interesting thing about this is that they watched it, they said, for about 10 minutes. It wasn't something that just, you know, was like fleeting. They only saw it for seconds. They didn't get a good look at it. But how they described it was about 200 yards off the road on the side. It was hovering over an open field, but it was, they couldn't determine how big it was because it was dark, right? It's nighttime. but they saw 4 lights that looked like they might be portholes, and they were red, green, amber, and white, and they were about 3 or 4 feet apart, all in a row. And they said they watched it for about 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden, the lights shot directly up, and with no noise whatsoever, it just levitated over a hill and disappeared. Now, that was in February. From February 21st, when this happened, through mid-April, the Piedmont police received about an additional 500 calls from people reporting basically the same thing. They're seeing these lights, red, amber, green, and white. Most of them said they could not see the craft because it was dark. The sightings generally took place between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. So, you've got a real narrow window of time. And most of the sightings took place over the farm fields, which of course in the Boot Hill, that's all there is. But some actually were above houses. Now, one of the most compelling sightings came from 2 women, Jean Coleman and Kathy Leach, on March 21st. As they're driving along, they were crossing Clearwater Dam at about 9 o'clock at night. And they actually saw something caught their attention coming up out of the lake. And it had a red light that was flashing on it. They said they couldn't get a real clear look at it because as it ascended, the red light would periodically flash. That's when they would get some kind of a glimpse, because you know how it is when lightning flashes, they would get a glimpse of what this craft looked like. But as soon as the light went out, it was completely dark and they couldn't see. But they said every time the red light flashed, it would get brighter. So I thought that was like the most compelling one of the reports. Like I said, there were about 500 of them. That's what got Piedmont the name of UFO capital of Missouri, was that incident, or those incidents, I should say, because they were very well documented. Lots of people saw them, all different walks of life, from the farmers to the mayor to the sheriff's department. Everybody saw what was going on. Now, what I thought was interesting too, and this one didn't get very much recognition, the Piedmont lights stopped in about mid-April of 73. Well, in June of 73, in Columbia, Missouri, which is smack dab in the middle of the state, right? The Piedmont is down south. Columbia is smack dab in the center of the state. I don't know how far apart they are, Michelle.
It's a little bit. They're kind of a
couple hundred miles, maybe.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they're a couple hundred miles apart, these 2 cities. And a man by the name of James Richards and his 16-year-old daughter heard what they said was an odd thrashing sound. So, and they lived in a mobile home. It was 12:30 in the morning, June 28th, 1973. And this thrashing sound concerned James enough that he actually got his gun to go out and check it out, because, that's what we do in Missouri. We hear sounds around our home, we get our gun and out we go. What he said he saw was, it was only about 50 feet away from him. And there were 2 lights, 2 beams of lights shooting up. And the beams of light were about 5 feet apart. They were about 15 feet in diameter. Each of them were 15 feet in diameter.
Okay.
And they were so bright that he said it lit up the area almost as like it was daytime.
Wow.
And he said that he could see the trees swaying as if the wind was blowing really hard, which it wasn't. And one of these beams of light, they were coming down. One of them almost touched the ground, and he could hear a limb of a tree snap off. He had dogs. The dogs did not respond. So when he couldn't shoot these lights, right? So he called I guess the manager of the trailer park and asked that the police be notified. And then he said that what he calls UFO, even though it was just these beams of light, he said it headed off north, and the lights started dimming, and he saw a silvery surface with blue and orange bands of light around it. And they watched it for several minutes. He watched it for several minutes, he and his daughter. When the police came, they did find broken tree limbs. They found crushed foliage, and they found some burned leaves as high as 35 feet off the ground in these trees.
Oh, wow.
So that's pretty compelling. I think that, together with what was happening in Piedmont, might have been similar, because they're pretty close together. They're pretty close together. But anyway, I thought that was very interesting, and that doesn't get a lot of airtime. They talk about Piedmont, but then they don't talk about this one in Columbia. And Columbia, I'm sure even in 1973 is a pretty good sized town, because that's where the University of Missouri is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like Piedmont, Missouri, where you've got farm fields. We've got hospitals up there. That's where our major hospitals are. We've got the university up there. So it's a big area. Oh, somebody's explaining something. What's happening here?
Yes. Let me see what it'll look like on the screen.
It's probably going to be too big. Beth, it does not surprise me that you would encounter a UFO. That does not surprise me one bit. Not one bit. I'm just going to take a moment to read it here. My husband and I actually had an experience in 2004 or 5. Yes, when you have those experiences, you can recall them. Yeah, and Michelle can speak to that too, because her experience 30 years ago is as plain as it was the day it happened. You watched it for 30 minutes, red, white, orange, rotating circular pattern. Oops. Driving Columbia. Yeah, see, that's that same area. That's that same area, Beth. Oh, and then Sheila, you're saying that you'd love to see a UFO. I don't think it would scare you, because I saw them when I went to Utah. And I'm not saying they're alien. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that I saw things that I can't identify. I don't know what they are. I know it's nothing that I'm familiar with. Of course, could we have military aircraft that I don't know anything about? Absolutely.
Well, that's a whole other show.
That's a whole other thing. But I saw the lights in the Uintah Basin. I mean, I saw them. I saw the craft. And then whatever that triangle thing was that I drove under, going towards Laramie, Wyoming, I don't know what it was. It didn't scare me. And I was more curious after I went under it, thinking, what in the world was that? I need to go back and check it out. But did I? No, I missed a perfect opportunity. Ooh, Beth, I wonder if you might be an abductee.
You sound way too excited about that.
Okay. Sorry, Beth. I don't want you to be abducted or probed. That's Becky's job.
Oh my gosh.
And then the next one,
isn't there one in Cape Girardeau?
Yeah, that's the next one that I wanted to talk to you all about. I do have some pictures of that, though. So let me try to get this pulled up again, because you know how that goes. Michelle will keep her eye on the chat.
Everybody's laughing at the moment.
Yes. Because I really don't want you to get probed, because that could just only be a nightmare. Talk about having nightmares from just seeing it. Oh, wait until you're probed. I can only imagine. Well, no, I can't imagine.
No, I was laughing at Sheila's comment about seeing a stream of lights in the sky not that long ago and freaked out, but then learned that it was Elon Musk's whatchamacallit. whatchamacallits. There's
All
our
right.
alien.
There's our alien. Oh, what happened to the old alien?
You clicked off of him and you gave us a lovely scenery picture.
Well, for gosh sakes, hold on.
Well, Marsha's messing with that. I will.
Oh, do you have a scenery picture?
I do not.
Oh,
You did. It's your
oh,
picture. What she keeps referring back to 20, 25 years ago, I was living in a very tiny, small town. And I had my kids with me. We were just getting home from somewhere. And you know how when you're getting stuff out of the car and you've got two little kids, they were probably 6 years old, if that, 5, 6 years old. And getting out of the car, and then something caught my attention up, because when you live in a small town, we don't have a whole lot of lights. So we see those extra lights moving around in the sky. And it was one of the triangular ones. And I still remember it. It was not treetop level, but not much higher, and was silent, absolutely silent. It had in each corner of the triangle, it had lights, but they weren't on, but I could see that they had lights. And so me being me, tried putting the kids back in their car seats real quick, because I'm going to follow this thing. It's a whole lot easier for them to do a straight line than for me to have to take a right turn and a left turn and follow the backcountry road. So needless to say, I did not follow it very far. Scared my children, though, because they were like, what's wrong? What are we doing? Why are we back in the car? But that's my story. And again, I do get razzed a bit by the family and my tinfoil hat. And every now and again, I'll find one laying around. So, but they'll be laughing later when I prove it true. Just saying.
I find it hard to believe that your family would make fun of you and there would be a tinfoil hat in the mix.
So anyways, you got your picture up.
I got my picture up. So what I want to show you here, and I need to refer to my notes, so I'm trying not to screw everything up as I move these pictures around. So in 1941, which was 6 years, before the Roswell crash. Mm-hmm. This was late April of 1941. We had a crash of a UFO with life forms on it in Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
Yep.
Now, what you're looking at here, which is pretty much what you see in the Boot Hill. So, when you talk about Piedmont's not that far from Cape Girardeau, or Cape as we call it. It's farm fields, right? There's a bunch of farmers. This is the location as near as folks can document based on the information that they have. But this is where it happened at. And the story, the way the story came to be was that in the 1970s, this woman, whose last name is Mann, came forward, and she said that her grandmother had given her this information on the grandmother's deathbed. She had heard little snippets of this through the years, but didn't know the whole story. But Grandma told her the whole story before Grandma passed on. So this is the story. Late April 1941, her grandfather is a Baptist minister. His name is Reverend William Huffman. And he was the minister at the Red Star Baptist Church in Cape Girardeau. He was called by the sheriff at about 9:30 p.m. one night because the sheriff said that there was a plane crash in the farm field, and he asked Reverend Huffman to come along to give last rites to anybody that may need it, right? So Reverend Huffman said that he was taken to this scene and he realized it was not a plane crash. There were a lot of folks around. There was the sheriff, some other folks around, military was there, and he realized that it wasn't a plane crash. And what he described was a round silver disc that was metallic in color. It did not have any seams, and it didn't look like anything he had ever seen. Part of it had broken open, and he could see inside. And what he saw, he described as gauges on kind of an instrument panel, like you would see in a cockpit, and tiny little seats. And along, there was a silver band along the cockpit that had what he described as hieroglyphic writing on it. And he said that there was debris throughout the field that had actually caught the field on fire. So the fire department was on the scene as well. He said that he saw 3 creatures, is what he called them. 2 were already dead. 1 was not. 1 was still breathing. And he knelt over this creature to give him his last rites, although Reverend Huffman said that he didn't think that was the thing he needed to do, but that's what he did. This little creature died anyway. He said that these little creatures were about 3.5, 4 feet tall. And he described them what we would consider grays nowadays, right? With the big black eyes, the long, thin arms. He couldn't tell whether it was a suit they had on, a skin tight suit, or if it was their skin. But it was like crunched up aluminum foil, is what he said. So the military was there. They hushed everyone up, swore them to secrecy because of national security. Isn't that always the way? So,
because they took all the cameras and such, all the that
yes,
people had.
They took the cameras. Yeah, except, and that's where this little drawing comes in at. We don't know where the military took the debris. They took it all. There was nothing left. I suspect it probably went to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, because that's where most of that stuff went. But there was a photographer on site, and his name was, let me just take a peek here. His name was Garland Fraunebarger. And Garland Fraunebarger was a photographer, a staff photographer at the Southeast Missourian newspaper at the time. And he took a picture of 2 police officers holding up one of the dead creatures under the arms, kind of like is depicted in this drawing. And that photograph survived. That photograph survived. The granddaughter recalled seeing that photograph growing up because Fraunebarger showed up a few days later at the Reverend's house with a copy of this photograph. There were only 2 made that's ever been known to exist, which Fraunebarger has one, or had one, and Reverend Huffman had the other one. And the granddaughter said through the years she had seen it. So she drew this picture of kind of what it looked like, right? Now, what happened to the photograph? Well, let me back up. Huffman was sworn to secrecy, but he could not comprehend what he saw that night. So when he got home, he told his wife, which was this woman's grandmother, and his 2 sons, one of which, of course, is this woman's father. They never spoke of it. He swore them to secrecy, but he had to tell somebody. And apparently he told his wife all of the details. Now, when Grandpa died, the photograph ended up with this woman's father. He loaned the photograph out to a photographer by the name of, what's his name? Walter Fisk. Fisk said he was a photographer too. He was a commercial photographer, and he said he wanted to show this photograph to his mom and dad. So man's father loaned him the photograph. Lo and behold, of course, the photograph didn't come back.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, as the UFO project has started looking into this, because all of this just came out, like I said, it started coming out in the 1990s is when she started to talk about it, when the grandma died. And the UFO project has done some research, and they have found that the Red Star Baptist Church, in fact, had this Reverend Huffman there during this time frame. He has also checked the police department and fire department logs, and they report being at this location, which is how they've actually found it. But there is no mention of, aliens or alien craft or a plane crash. It's simply just a brush fire is how it's listed. Which, if they were sworn to secrecy, they had to account for why they were there. You know what I mean? So they had to have something in their logs. And apparently, Cape Girardeau has very comprehensive logs from the 1940s on up about the response that their police and fire department make. Who knew? Mm-hmm. Who knew? So anyway, when the UFO project reached out to this photographer, Fisk, he has refused to talk about this photograph. So where it is today, nobody seems to know. So, but let me show you another picture, I think. Oh, no. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that.
In case you didn't get it, she didn't want to do that.
I didn't want to do that. Okay. So,
what is
anything you want to? Well, let me back up to this little guy here. Anything you want to add to that, Michelle?
No, that pretty well sums it up. And you got to remember, during the 40s, people took the threats by the government very seriously.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
if they said, you talk about it and harm will come to you and your family, it was truly believed at that time that would happen, mm-hmm. which is why nobody spoke about it, because they truly were scared.
Well, and that's even carried over to today, because I'll tell you what, if the men in black show up on my doorstep, I'm going to do exactly what they tell me to do.
You won't remember.
I know. They'll put a chip in me and it'll all be gone. Yeah. So. But I've got a couple of more stories I want to share with you, which brings me to this picture. These are more recent sightings. Okay. So this one, the gal, this picture was, is this right?
I don't know. It's hard to see. Looks like there's something white in the middle of the screen.
Well, this is a power pole or a light pole.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So this photograph, which doesn't have anything in it, by the way. So if you're looking for something, you're not going to see it.
Perfect.
This incident happened November 29th of 2023 in Cape Girardeau. Beautiful sunny day. It was high noon. The gal was at the Kentucky Fried Chicken on William Street in Cape Girardeau, right? Having her lunch. So this is what she said, and I'm just going to read her account. I first noticed white birds circling a parking lot street light, right? Which is this light right here in the middle, this big white thing, right? Then above the light, I saw a vertical cylinder-shaped object constantly rotating and going in and out of visibility as it turned. It was shimmering in the sunlight with sparkly light and silver spots, then completely disappearing and reappearing over and over. It resembled a translucent veil covering a translucent veil covering a tin can. I estimated the size as big as a box truck. I watched it for several seconds, trying to decide if I was really seeing it. I was with my father at the time, but he was unable to see it as his view was blocked by a sign. When I reached for my phone to snap a photo, the object vanished. Immediately, I noticed helicopters in the area and counted 17 other aircraft within 30 minutes of the sighting, which was weird for Cape Girardeau. I'm not crazy. I know what I saw.
Wow. And that
Yeah.
was just last year,
Yeah.
23.
Yeah. Now, there was another one in December, which I don't have a picture of, but this guy was a pilot. This was December 7th, 2023. It was spotted by an aviation expert in the small town of Fairfax, Missouri, which is just north of Kansas City, right? So if y'all are familiar with the state of Missouri, you know Kansas City is up in the northwest corner or northwest part of the state. So it's up above KC. This is what he says, and I'm going to read this too, and you can clearly tell this guy is a pilot. You can clearly tell. At approximately 8:40 p.m., I saw an orange light at approximately 20 degrees elevation at a heading due west at 270 degrees. The orange light was as bright as the star Sirius in magnitude. Beneath this orange light was another orange light that moved from 5 degrees from the left to 5 degrees to the right of the stationary orange light. This orange light was about 5 degrees below the stationary light. Time taken for this light to travel was about 10 seconds, and then it faded out. A few seconds later, the stationary orange light faded out. Between 3 and 5 minutes later, I saw another orange light 10 degrees off the horizon rise in a curve to the left, approximately 10 degrees above the horizon, and fade out. I see planes leaving from Omaha and Kansas City. Omaha is northwest of this location, 90 miles, and Kansas City is southeast from this location, 100 miles. The only commercial airport in the direction of the sighting is Denver, but at 600 miles, the distance to horizon is too far to see an air traffic from there. Weather was clear and 54 degrees. Now I ask you, does that sound like a pilot?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But I think it's pretty cool that you brought up the other side of the state up there and around Kansas City, because in the last year or so, there have been several sightings. Again, I think there was one on April 22nd in St. Joe, which is north of Kansas City in that same area, that a sheriff's deputy actually called their dispatch stating, "I've got a large object above this church and I don't know what it is." And so, of course, you got scanner laying out there. And so everybody's going outside and, you know, right, wrong, or indifferent, everybody started saying they could see this. There was another one, and I couldn't find the date, but I remember seeing the articles on it that there was an object seen early morning up around the St. Joseph area, and it was a rectangular object, and I think they were trying to compare it to the size of a football field, and it was seen there, like I said, early in the morning, and they watched it, and it was very fast moving to the point where in a very short amount of time, I want to say like 20 or 30 minutes, it was seen in northern Kansas City.
Well, it's just crazy the number of UFOs that we have here. But we also have a lot of military bases here, which those of you that are not from Missouri or you're not familiar with it, we have got several military bases. And yeah, the common theory is that these UFOs are attracted to the military bases because of the fuel.
Well, it depends on what you
The
listen
nuclear,
to.
well, the nuclear reaction
Yeah, it seems
reactors.
there's different reactors throughout Missouri too.
Yeah.
Uh, but one of the, and I know we're going on about an hour here, but one last thing I really wanted to touch base on, for those of you that may or may not, or that are doing the binge watching, UFO Witness is a fairly newer show, and they just did one. It was in 2023, I believe, and they talked to the director of Missouri's MUFON and talking about the number of sightings in the Kansas City area, so much so that there's even talk of a possibility of a portal there, which that I find very interesting. But if you get a chance, we can try to find what that episode number is and put it in the chat or something. But that she's talking about it, and how what makes Missouri's MUFON a little bit unique is the fact that they actually have investigators on staff. So they actually have people that go out and investigate all of these reports. And I was thinking, well, shouldn't all states have that? But the way she was talking, it was like something special or rare, I guess I should say, that not all chapters have that. So
Well,
it's really interesting.
I will put that. I'll do a post on the Facebook page with that link. I was going to show you a little clip of it, but the audio isn't working on it. So without the audio, you kind of lose a little bit. But yeah, I'll put it in the. I'll do a post on it. But it's interesting. They actually show some pictures that some folks have taken that are really. They talk about a cube. They're now starting to see. We're starting to
Yes.
see the cubes, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so that's kind of crazy. So, all right, before we shut her down, let's pull up our.
Wait a minute, real quick. What state do you think has the most sightings?
Oh,
Hey, you didn't know there'd be a pop quiz, did you?
I'm going to say it's got to be someplace on the East Coast.
No.
No?
Believe it or not, it is the state of California.
Again, no surprise.
With well over 10,000. Now, Washington, Dawn, came in third. So it was ranked number 3 with just over 4,300. Interestingly enough, the states with the fewest UFO sightings, Washington, D.C.
Really?
Yeah, who'd have thought it? And then North Dakota and Wyoming were rounding up the top 3 of the fewest UFO sightings. Which is interesting since it'd be so easy to see them up there.
Yes, and there have been sightings up there recently. I know there was a cattle rancher. There was a big deal about a cattle rancher in Wyoming that spotted.
Each of these states have less than 500 each.
It's crazy. I'm going to pop up our social media real quick. We can keep yapping in the background. But this is how y'all can find us. For those of you who don't know, I think y'all do know how to find us. We're like everywhere, just like a bad penny. We are everywhere.
But doesn't mean you have to stop sharing us out with everybody.
True.
And Beth, that is actually a theory that is being more and more prevalent about concealing them in the bodies of water.
Well, and remember in 1803, those Japanese fishermen found that craft in the water.
Yep.
And in 1973, one of the Piedmont sightings came up out of the lake, flashing red lights.
Well, and of course, you got to throw the Bermuda Triangle in there because they've had those sightings down there as well.
It's crazy. It's craziness. Anyway,
I almost saw that eye roll. I almost saw your eyes roll.
I almost did it. So anyway,
for everybody, And I just wanted to throw out there real quick and let us know if you like the new format, the different ways that we're looking at stuff and talking about stuff, kind of veering a little bit away from the ghosties and a little bit more to the mysteries.
Well, I was actually going to discuss that.
Well, you do that then. I'll sit back and just wait.
Well, what I wanted to say first was we're starting our 2024 season. Our first hunt of the 24 season is the Brumley Castle. We're going to be going in March. Beth, you're going to be getting an email from me about that because I think that might be something you would enjoy. And then, as Michelle said, we've changed the format. We've changed the name from Ghostly Gab and Random Thoughts to Show Me Mysteries. The reason that I did that, folks, is that I wanted to retire that name because that was something that Michelle, Debbie, and I did together. And Michelle and I, we carried it on for the last 3 or 4 years since Debbie's been gone. But I wanted to branch out. I just wanted to retire that and kind of branch out to Show Me Mysteries, right? We're going to be talking about other things besides hauntings and the locations that we go to and things that are, I don't want to say non-paranormal because they are, but we'll be talking about some paranormal stuff. We'll be talking about cryptids. We'll be talking about these UFOs. We'll be talking about some unsolved mysteries that are here in the state, people that are missing, people that have, unsolved murders, things like that.
It'll be a nice little grab bag of information.
Yeah, I just wanted to branch out, and the Ghostly Gab name, that meant one thing to me and Michelle and Debbie, and we're growing. So I hope you enjoy it. Facebook is still going to stay the same, right? I'm still focusing on our ghost hunts and the haunted stuff on the Facebook page. Also on the Midwest Ghost Hunters YouTube, we're still going to focus on that. It's just these live streams. We're going to do something a little bit different just to shake it up a little bit.
Absolutely. Branch out a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. You never know what we'll be talking about.
We're still gabbing.
We are still gabbing. We are still gabbing for sure. For sure. So anyway, folks, thank you so much for hanging out with Michelle and I on a Friday night for an hour. We know there's so many other things you could do besides hang out with us. We do appreciate it. We enjoy doing the live feeds. We enjoy interacting with you all. So if there's something you want us to talk about in particular, nothing's off the table except politics and religion. Those are the two things off the table. Other than that, we'll talk about anything you want to talk about. So until next time, folks, have a great week, great month. And we will see you back here the first Friday of
March.
Oh my gosh. First Friday of March.
Oh, right. Real quick, last thought.
Oh, we've got a random thought.
We have a random thought. Just so everybody's aware, there are 0 planets in retrograde until April.
Yes, that's important.
That is important.
That is important. That's important. So, all righty, folks. Until next time.